Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, eagle warrior of Tenochtitlan. An omen appeared above the forest, the shape of an ear of corn, but blazing like daybreak. It seemed to bleed fire, drop by drop, like a wound in the sky. I am a warrior, not a priest, and knew not what to make of such a sign. I consulted with the seers and magicians to see if another great war was coming. But they answered only in riddles. The gods want more sacrifice was their answer. That was always their answer. Much of our empire of rainforest and volcanoes has been conquered in the name of sacrifice. The magicians tell us that we must make a sacrifice every single day for the sun to continue to rise. It took the relay teams 2 full days to carry my message the 200 miles to our city of Tenochtitlan. After 2 more days, my uncle, Moctezuma, emperor of the Aztecs, sent his reply. Montezuma's priest foretold that the god Quetzalcoatl might soon return from his long exile. How else to explain the omen? Moctezuma ordered my warriors to increase their efforts to consolidate the rainforest between our land and those of our enemies. We must establish control over 4 shrines that are sacred to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Because the Aztec Empire is mighty and constantly expands, we have made many enemies. We must defend these shrines from our enemies in order to prepare for Quetzalcoatl's eventual return.
Walk. Oak. 제비오, 비정께.
I hear the growl of the jaguar. Is this a bad omen?
Aksak.
Ok. Achtzak.
Jay.
반네, 제비오. 비정께. 제비오. 비정께. 구. 구. 만틀우. 고만제. 만틀우. 구. 옥. 만틀우. 옥.
Okay.
구. 옥. 구.
Het. Achtzak.
만틀우. 옥. 비정께. 제비오. 비정께. 제비오. 고만지요. 제비오. 만틀원. 옥. 구. 만틀원. 옥. 옥. 만틀원. 옥. 비정께. 만. Bantu wound. Ku. Debyo. Debyo. Comante. Jonke. Walk. Ban. Ok. Debyo. Bantu wound. Jonke. Debyo. Jonke. Ok. Ok. Debyo. Comante. Ku. Bantu wound. Ok. Jonke. Bant. Ku. Ok.
You defile our sacred temple, Aztecs.
Bantu.
The gods demand a sacrifice.
Debyo. Jonke. Ok. Ok. Comante. Debyo. Jonke. Debyo. Ban. Ku. Bantu. Ok.
When my warriors had captured the shrines and defeated the Xochimilcan and Tlatelolco, we made the long journey back to Tenochtitlan, laden with gifts for Emperor Moctezuma, jade, feathers, and of course, prisoners. The sheer vastness of our city on the lake seems staggering after having been in the rainforest for so many days. Emperor Moctezuma lives in the most sumptuous rooms of the palace with his wives and concubines. While we spoke, he drank frothing chocolate from a golden cup. Musicians played their drums and flutes, and masked women danced. When my uncle Moctezuma first ascended the Great Pyramid many years ago to become emperor, there was a great celebration. Yet now, some question his leadership. He sometimes makes decisions slowly, and rarely does he lead the warriors into combat. Montezuma's priest informed us that Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, would soon return to Tenochtitlan to reclaim his kingdom. Since I had helped prepare for his coming, I was given a new obsidian macana and promoted to the rank of jaguar warrior. There was more feasting and dancing that night. The air was heavy with perfume. However, I noticed as I walked down the steps of the Emperor's palace that the omen still hung heavily over the lake, spraying sparks over the midnight sky. So says Cuauhtémoc, jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. The gods were still uneasy, for another omen appeared that same year. The temple of the demon Huitzilopochtli burst suddenly into flames, although it was made of stone. When the people hurried to pour water on the fire, it burned with even greater violence. I asked our Emperor Moctezuma what we needed to do to appease the gods. His haughty priests made the predictable reply. The Aztec Empire needed more prisoners. The sun god, the rain god, and even the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl were angry deities that required sacrifice. Our city-state of Tenochtitlan is allied with two others, together composing the Triple Alliance. Moctezuma intended for the Triple Alliance to attack our longtime enemies, the Tlaxcala. I sent the traditional shield, arrows, and cloaks to the Tlaxcala, declaring to them that they would soon be attacked. Then, we marched out into the forests, our jaguar and eagle banners ready to clash with the heron banners of the Tlaxcala. Birds in the rainforest canopy took to the sky, eager to be away from the violence that was to come.
grande. Llevio, jonque. Ok. Ku.
Emperor Moctezuma insists that you make war on the Tlaxcala.
Montezuma oversteps his authority, but we will comply.
Bantel one.
Moctezuma of the Aztec demands that as a member of the Triple Alliance, you attack the wicked Tlaxcala.
Montezuma asks us to do much for the Aztecs, but we shall do his bidding, for now.
Now we can attack the Tlaxcala. Villagers are being sent by transport from Tenochtitlan to establish our forward base. We have found a hidden temple to Tlaloc, the rain god. The magicians say that if we bring 10 jaguar warriors to this location, we will be rewarded.
Ok. Ban. Llevio.
We have destroyed one town center. 3 remain.
Jonque. Ok. Bantel one. Comance. Jonque. Ban. Llevio.
We have now leveled 2 of Tlaxcala's town centers. 2 remain. Tlaxcala has 1 town center remaining. Where can it be?
Comance. Llevio. Ban. Jonque. Llevio. Jonque.
We have destroyed all of Tlaxcala's town centers. Now they will surely surrender.
Now that we are rid of the Tlaxcala, let us rid ourselves of these Aztec taskmasters as well. Agreed.
Bantel one. Ku. Ok. Llevio. Comance. Jonque. Ok. Llevio. Bantel one. Ku. Ok. Ku. Bantel one. Ok. Ku. Ok. Llevio. Bante. Bantel one. Jonque.
None shall challenge the will of Moctezuma and the Aztec Empire.
Ok. Ku.
But wait, what is this that approaches?
I claim these lands and all of the gold they bear in the name of Charles of Spain. Until all of the gold is brought to me, I shall not return home. To prove it, I am sinking my ships.
Who is this man who has arrived? Could it be that the god Quetzalcoatl has returned? The first messengers to arrive in Tenochtitlan told of mountains or towers that floated on the sea. Each story told to Moctezuma was more fantastic than the last. They could fire stone balls, shooting sparks and raining fire that could crack open weapons. Huge deer with no antlers carried these gods on their backs. Their swords were iron, their bows were iron, their shields were iron, and their clothes were iron. Surely this was the return of Quetzalcoatl. Moctezuma heard these reports with growing alarm as he shifted nervously on the Ikpali, his legless throne. He ordered expensive gifts to be sent to the new arrivals, in the hopes that Quetzalcoatl would spare Moctezuma when the feathered serpent came to Tenochtitlan. "He has come back," Moctezuma whispered to me. "He seeks his place on the throne, for that is what he promised when he departed." I held my weapons tightly but said nothing. How could I challenge the word of our emperor? So says Cuauhtémoc, jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Another omen. The lake around the great city of Tenochtitlan rose and boiled. It foamed until it washed against the houses of the city, sweeping many of them into the lake. I accompanied our dignitaries to meet with the new arrivals. We journeyed towards the coast, through the lands of our enemies, the Tlaxcala. When we emerged from the forest, the strangers welcomed us, although they kept their weapons nearby. I told them that we were Aztecs, representatives of the great Moctezuma. Their leader said that his people were Spanish, and he named himself Cortés, although he seemed pleased when we referred to him as Quetzalcoatl. Although their armor and animals seem otherworldly, they did not seem like gods to me. We presented Cortés gifts of finest cotton and plumes of bird feathers, but he seemed more interested in the gold ornaments. He asked again and again if there was more gold to be found in Tenochtitlan. By now, Cortés had advanced all the way to the lands of the Tlaxcala. There was initial warfare made between Tlaxcala and the Spanish. However, when Cortés heard stories about the size of Tenochtitlan and the number of our brave Aztec warriors, he suggested that the Spanish and the Tlaxcala join forces and attack the Aztecs. We do not know the intentions of these Spanish arrivals. For now, our enemies are the Tlaxcala. The Spanish are attacking our allies in Tabasco. We must come to their aid. Our runners have confirmed that the Spanish and Tlaxcala have formed an alliance against us. Now we must do battle with them both. The Spanish armies are dangerous because of the beasts they ride into battle. If we could capture these animals, then the Spanish would be much less of a threat. This is the pen where we will corral the captured Spanish horses. It is to no avail. The Spanish beasts and weapons are more powerful than our warriors. Tabasco is lost.
Debio. Comante. Jonque. Debio. Ban. Ku. Bantel one. Ku.
It is here that the Spanish sank their own transports to prove their determination to conquer our lands. Cortés must be nearby.
Ku, bantel, ban, ok, jonke. Romance, ok, ok. Ban. Jebio.
We have captured 10 Spanish horses. We are halfway to our goal.
Jonke. Romance. Bantel, Romance. Jebio.
Now that we have all of the Spanish horses, they will be unable to send their deadly knights and conquistadors into battle.
Bantel, ok.
We have defeated the Tlaxcalans and slowed the Spanish advance, but I fear the final confrontation is yet to come.
Jebio. Romance. Ban. Jebio.
Although the Aztec warriors fought well that day, my men were frightened by the beasts that the Spanish rode into combat, and by the noise of their exploding weapons. Although we had survived the attack, I thought it best to withdraw towards Tenochtitlan and share with Emperor Moctezuma all that we had learned. I don't know if my uncle Moctezuma was being cowardly or merely trying to preserve us from the wrath of the gods, but he sent more gifts to Cortés along with an invitation to visit our great city as his personal guest. I was there when Moctezuma met Cortés on one of the causeways leading into our great city. The Spanish had evidently never seen anything like Tenochtitlan, and they stared in wonder at the brightly colored markets and pyramids rising out of a man-made island in the middle of a gigantic lake, Texcoco. Some of the Spanish soldiers asked whether it was all a dream, the first glimpse of things never heard, seen, or dreamed before. Moctezuma led Cortés to the top of the Great Pyramid, where he pointed out the various canals and neighborhoods of the city. But Cortés was mostly interested in gold ornaments, and helped himself to any which he encountered. I was no longer convinced that this man was Quetzalcoatl. So says Cuauhtémoc, jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, prisoner of Tenochtitlan. The next omen we did not see, but heard. The voice of a weeping woman who cried in the night that she could not hide her children. Indecision plagued Emperor Moctezuma. Was this man Quetzalcoatl, or was he just a man? As the emperor brooded, the citizens grew restless. Cortés kept a close watch on the emperor, and soon Moctezuma became a prisoner in his own palace. Thus did the Spanish take Tenochtitlan without a siege. The Spanish collected all of the gold they could find. They were not interested in our art or ornaments, but merely melted down the gold for the return to Spain. They also outlawed any further sacrifice to the gods. When the priests protested, they were killed. The citizens and warriors of Tenochtitlan were enraged. We knew, even if our emperor did not, that these men were not gods. Riots broke out in the marketplace and at the palace. When Moctezuma himself appeared on the walls urging the Aztecs to be at peace, the people threw stones at him. It was time to remove these so-called gods from Tenochtitlan. I must make my way back to Tenochtitlan and end the Spanish influence there. But how?
Ku, bantelwon, ok,
Out of my way, pig.
bantelwon, ku, ok, ku,
If you truly mean to free Tenochtitlan, then we will fight alongside you.
ok,
Many Aztecs are held prisoner to the north. They would join us as well.
ban, ok, kuman, bantelwon, ku, kumante,
There are transports on the beach ahead, but they are guarded. We will need several Aztec warriors to defeat them.
ok, ban, ku, ok, kumante, bantelwon, jebyo, jonke,
are you doing so close to the city? Stirring up trouble, no doubt.
제비오. 옥. 고만세. 반트. 옥. 옥. 구. 옥.
A Clashgallen priest. We must be cautious.
반틀원. 구.
I wonder what would happen if we open the jaguar pen.
옥. 반틀원. 구. 고만세. 반. 반틀원. 옥. 옥. 고만세. 반틀원. 고만세. 반틀원. 구.
Moctezuma was tricked by the Spanish.
Comandante.
Vengeance shall be ours.
옥. 반. 옥. 옥. 구.
We have reached the Tlaxcala outpost. We do not have time to destroy every building. Let us free the prisoners and escape.
반틀원. 옥.
Vengeance shall be ours.
Jebiok.
We can
Comandante.
gather our strengths across the lake. But to get there, we must steal a transport from Tenochtitlan.
제비오. 구. 반틀원. 고만세. 제비오. 옥. 비정께. 제비오. 비정께. 고만세. 제비오. 비정께. 옥. 반틀원.
We can train priests at this monastery and
Comandante.
use them to capture villagers from Tenochtitlan.
옥. 반틀원. 옥.
I have heard tales of an island in Lake Texcoco that is covered with gold, but is sacred to Tezcatlipoca, the jaguar god.
옥. 악주.
구. 반틀원. 옥. 반틀원. 구. 옥. 반틀원. 구. 반틀원. 구. 반틀원.
The Spanish thought that Tenochtitlan was theirs, but they did not count on the strength and courage of Aztec warriors.
반틀원. 옥.
The Spanish called it La Noche Triste, which meant the night of sorrows in their language. At first, the Spanish barricaded themselves in our homes and palaces, but we continuously attacked their quarters. With stones, slings, and arrows, we drove the Spanish and Tlaxcalans through the streets of Tenochtitlan and across the 3 bridges and over the walls into Lake Texcoco. Thousands died. Those Spanish that were not killed by macanas or javelins were drowned by the weight of the treasure they refused to leave behind. Tenochtitlan lay in ruin, but the city was ours again. Many brave Aztec warriors died that night as well, including noble Moctezuma. The Spanish claimed that our own people had killed him with thrown stones. Thus, it was a night of sorrows for us as well. So says Cuauhtémoc, defender of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan. The death of Moctezuma only served to further inflame the fury of my people. I plan to lead the attack personally against the Spanish. That is as it should be, Cuauhtémoc, the priests told me, for you are now our emperor. I took my place on the Iqbali throne, and the headdress of the emperor was placed upon my head. A crown is never a comfortable thing to wear. Cortés had still not made it far from Tenochtitlan, for the Spanish were weighed down with our stolen gold. As they fled around the shores of the lake, my warriors pursued them in canoes. I sent additional warriors by land, for it was obvious now that Cortés was attempting to flee back to the safety of his allies in Tlaxcala. We caught up with the Spanish on the north side of Lake Texcoco. The Spanish shall never again set foot in Tenochtitlan. Let none escape our blades.
Hek. Zagonane.
My Emperor, we have been studying Spanish horses and cannon, and have found that there is no reason Aztecs could not use these weapons, provided we had the proper materials.
Pan Zagonane.
If we capture Spanish horses, it is possible that we could train cavalry of our own. If we capture their stores of gunpowder, we could even create some
Comandante
cannons to use against the
Zagonane.
Spanish. We have captured a Spanish horse. If we return it to our citadel, perhaps we can learn to ride it into battle. It is an old Spanish ammunition depot. These wagon loads of gunpowder might be useful. We have trained a horse rider. 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 We have created a bombard cannon. We have created a bombard cannon. We have created a bombard cannon. I hope that the surviving Spanish on the edge of the lake could see as their captured comrades were dragged up the steps of the Great Pyramid. Perhaps they would then understand why we fear the wrath of the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl. Perhaps they would know fear as well. With the fighting having subsided, there was much work to be done. Our city had suffered much from the Spanish occupation and the fighting in the streets. The priests set out to repair the temples, for the Spanish had cast down the idols that we had placed there. We began a celebration to give thanks to the gods, when a great plague struck Tenochtitlan. Many of our people became helpless and could only lie in their beds. Many others died. We did not know if the gods were still unhappy with us, or if this was some weapon unleashed by the Spanish. Regardless, if Cortés returned, he would find a much weakened city. I could not let that happen. So says Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan. The Spanish will return soon. I had hoped that Cortés would continue fleeing back from whence he came, but he had stopped to regroup at Tlaxcala. I imagine that he could not stand the thought of returning to Spain while we still had treasuries of gold hidden from him. Still dreaming of gold and glory, the Spanish pledged themselves to another assault on Tenochtitlan. In Tlaxcala, Cortés constructed many warboats on dry land. Then he had the crafts broken down and carried through the rainforest, only to be rebuilt on Lake Texcoco. He knows that my Aztec warriors can defend the bridges leading into Tenochtitlan, but we are vulnerable from the water. I called the warriors to one final battle. The priests attempted to encourage the troops by calling upon the Aztecs to defend their ancient gods and their glorious city. They sent up smoke signals to declare that the Aztecs were ready for war as I climbed the steps of the great temple and sounded the shell trumpet. Tenochtitlan would be under siege soon, and the brave Aztecs would die before we would see her captured.
But nay,
Hexagonal.
We demolished the southern causeway to slow the Spanish advance.
Panzagonal.
Jay, Sakonan. Ok.
We have returned for the rest of your gold. Surrender now, or feel the wrath of our bombards.
Comandante?
You are postponing the inevitable. The time of the Aztec Empire has passed. Look to us as your new rulers.
Ok. Bantelwood. Cool. Bantelwood. Cool. Ok. Ban. Cool.
The Spanish must have abandoned these warships during their flight from Tenochtitlan. Now we will use them to bring death to the Spanish by sea. Tenochtitlan stands and the armies of Cortés are defeated. The Aztec Empire has triumphed. For now.
Cool. Bantu. Oh.
Not so long ago, some 500,000 people called Tenochtitlan home. It is difficult to recall that this smoking ruin was once an endless city. Yet, we will rebuild. We created this island upon which our city and temples stand, and we can do it once more. The Aztec Empire has endured its greatest challenge, yet the Spanish may return in the future. I am not certain that there is a place for us in this new world. I could ask the gods for a hint of the future, but no doubt that would lead to more sacrifice, and I think there has been enough death for now. My people composed a poem to commemorate this great war that we have survived, and yet perhaps still not won. Broken spears lie in the roads. We have torn our hair in grief. The houses are roofless now, and their walls are red with blood. So says Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan.